Welcome to Wholesale Hotline, where we cover everything to do with wholesale real estate. I'm Jamil Damji.
I'm Brent Daniels.
And I am Morby.
And together we cover the most important parts of wholesale real estate.
Lead generation.
Conversion of sellers into contracts.
And dispositions. Guys, remember when you're watching this show, do us a favor and squad up in the comments.
Make sure that you are liking and subscribing to the YouTube channels and in the Facebook group Wholesale Hotline.
Most important, we want to know we're doing a great job for you and helping you build your business. So go give us a review on iTunes and or Spotify.
So squad up and enjoy the show.
Welcome to Wholesale Hotline number 221. My name is Brent Daniels. We've got Pace Morby. We've got Jerry Norton. We've got Jamil Damji, whose camera is disconnected. And we have the disruptor himself, Steve Trang.
Yeah, I came here to outlaw the Wholesale Hotline.
Uh-oh, he's going to outlaw us tonight, guys. Watch out. He's going to outlaw. Not only is wholesaling across the country going to be outlawed, but so is even talking about it.
Yeah, it's just going to be hotline.
It's just going to be hotline with Pace and Jerry and Brent. Awesome.
Hotline.
Jamil. Well, welcome.
Thank you.
A lot of so a couple weeks ago, we had a great show about what was going on in South Carolina.
Right.
Your name came up.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of other names came up, and a lot of discussion around what is actually going on in South Carolina. Which is really interesting because Jerry and I have had some conversations off air about it, and it's just a lot of like mixed emotions and mixed feelings and mixed information.
There should be mixed feelings.
Yeah.
There should be mixed emotions.
Yeah,
because things are changing.
Yeah. So we're gonna break it all down here.
Yeah, let's break it down. I mean, I would say first and foremost, I think Jerry's done a phenomenal job leading this effort, right?
Yep.
I mean, for like 2 years now, he's talked about doing the self-regulating, right? Having the association of wholesalers, right, to have a voice to represent, right, the wholesalers, to keep to self-regulate the bad actors so that regulation doesn't happen. Right. I think Jerry's been leading that effort for some time, and well, unfortunately, regulation's happening.
Sure.
Yeah. So I completely understand like why people are upset. Completely get it, because no one likes it when you're messing with their money. Right. So they should totally be upset.
Well, as entrepreneurs, we don't like a lot of control. We don't like people telling us what to do.
I think every single one of us here, if ever my guess, to some degree, is a pretty high D, pretty unmanageable. Best way to just drive each one of us crazy is to tell us, no, you can't do something.
Right.
That would be my guess. All right.
Yep.
So yeah, when you're going through and regulating an entire industry, I think there should be some mixed emotions. People should be passionate, right?
Yeah.
It'd be no different than if you were on my realtor team, right? Back in the day, and say, hey, Brent, you've been doing a good job. I know you've been an 80-20 split, but look, here's the thing, right? My lease has gone up, so we're gonna have to be a 70-30.
Right.
How's that conversation gonna go?
Not well.
Right?
Not well.
It's never gone well. So yeah, I mean, I totally get why people are upset. So you want me to go ahead?
But can you wholesale in South Carolina? That's the question, because the conversation
and did I think the bigger, well, where some of the I guess friction came from was a belief that the guy that's involved in helping create the legislation or the rules or the regulation, in South Carolina, may have a coaching product that helps you circumvent the law or the regulation that he's a part of enacting. And I think honestly that's where the real tension came from. I don't think it's anything other than that, and definitely not directed to you.
So I would say if everything you stated there was 100% correct, then you would have every right to be upset, right? Because it'd be like, I don't know, if you were like a house speaker and you were trading with insider information, right? I think it'd be very justifiable to be angry, right? But he's not. He's not involved in the regulation, right? He's on the real estate commission. I'm not going to dispute that, right? He's on the real estate commission. Yep. He is a closing attorney, but he's not involved in drafting the laws, right? The laws, as I understand it, the conversation started in October of last year, right? But he has recused himself in every single one of these conversations. Why has he recused himself? Well, he has a product that he launched before they announced his law, right? Number one. And number two, here's the thing that's crazy about attacking this guy, right? I personally believe Gary is a good person. I've known him for a little bit of time, right? Not nearly as long as I've known you guys, but I've known him for some time.
Sure.
He is pro-investor, and this is why it's so frustrating, right? We're attacking the guy as pro-investor. He's the one that saw a problem coming, has clients that are trying to wholesale, and he's saying, hey, I know you want to wholesale. There's something coming down the pike, right? The real estate commission is coming out against wholesaling as far back as 22. Their opinion is that wholesaling hurts homeowners, right? Yep. So that's their position. They've been pushing it. He's on the commission. He's pro-investor. How do we know he's pro-investor? His number one client is a wholesaler, right? So he's got 3 of the top 4 realtors are his clients, but his number one client is
that Andrew Lucas?
It's not Andrew Lucas. No, okay. Someone based out of California.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But it's like to accuse him of being anti-wholesaling and to also accuse me of being anti-wholesaling.
No, I don't think it was an accusation of being anti-wholesaling. Definitely, again, not directed towards you, Steve. I think the accusation was talking both sides out of, was like basically playing both sides of the coin. That's all. I think that's what it was. It was like, where do you stand? And, are you, if you are a part of the legislation or the group that's putting the legislation through, then having a product that helps you skirt that is a little.
Right. If you were to, so this is the joke we made before, right? So like after we get rid of Wholesale Hotline, just make a hotline, right? We're going to get rid of wholesaling and we're going to make everyone become a licensed realtor, right? And after we force everyone, regulate everyone to be a licensed realtor, then we're going to get rid of all the non-MLMs because it's unfair to the MLMs, right? And after we got rid of all the non-MLMs, we're going to get rid of all the MLMs that are 3 letters.
Sure.
Right? So everyone has to join my downline at Real. Like that's how we're going to regulate.
This is Steve's master plan, guys.
Grow my
That's
downline.
actually really smart. I like that idea.
Right. So again, for me, there's a lot of people, right? It's not just, the conversation that was had here 2 weeks ago. There's a lot of people I see online that are blasting him and blasting, what's going on with the installment method. And I think we're attacking the wrong person. And that's where I'm frustrated. There's 12 people on the real estate commission in South Carolina.
10. There's 10.
10.
10. Yeah.
Right. All but 2 are anti-wholesaling. All but 2 are anti-investor. And so the guy that comes up with a solution to get around the regulation is the guy we're attacking. Why are we punching the guy that's on our side versus maybe attacking the other 10 people?
Why are these realtors that are on the board trying to get rid of wholesaling?
I mean, it's simple, right? Like a lot of, unfortunately, right? I would say a high number of realtors are of the scarcity mindset, right? They're not abundant mindset. They're thinking by you buying that person's house, you've robbed 2 people. You robbed the old lady and you robbed, more importantly, my commission.
Right.
Right. So how dare you rob my commission? So realtors and wholesalers naturally hate each other. And look, when I started Real Estate Disruptors in 2018, I had a vision. Of wholesalers and realtors working together, right? Because I've been the broker, I've been the wholesaler, and there's no reason why there should be oil and water. So I started the podcast to unite it. You know what happened? You know what I discovered after 10 episodes? This isn't happening. This is blood and Crips. This is not happening. A waste of time.
It's Montagues and Capulets, bro. You ain't solving this problem,
I am not designed to solve this problem. So we moved on. It's all wholesalers. Which again, why would I be anti-wholesaling if I have a wholesaling show?
Right. Jerry?
Fair. Yep.
I mean, that's reading between the lines, and I agree with Steve. They came out and said that NAR was on the meeting with the Real Estate Commission and everybody involved in drafting that law in South Carolina, right? So they're a part of it. They're definitely leading that narrative in the industry. The SEC or the REC will tell you that they exist to protect the consumer. So it's all about the consumer, and it's all about they have jurisdiction over licensees, which is real estate agents, property managers, and they also have jurisdiction over non-commissioned sales. So if a private citizen earns money on a non-commissioned sales, which would be brokering without a license, they can actually fine you. So it's not just that they have jurisdiction just over agents and property managers. They could also fine someone for unlicensed brokering. And that it would be receiving compensation for assisting in the purchase or sale of real estate. Now, their long-standing argument is that wholesaling is just a workaround to brokering, that all wholesalers are really doing is brokering real estate. They should have a license. We argue that we have equitable interest in a contract. We're selling our rights to the contract. We're protected under contract law. Technically, that's true. But what we're seeing over and over and over again with these regulations is that the REC is taking a different position. And they're saying you either have to have a real estate license to do any type of wholesaling, traditional wholesaling assignment, or you at least have to have a license to market the contract for sale publicly.
Right. And I think it's such a subtle nuance, right? So like per realtor rules, right? You're brokering, you're selling, you're selling and marketing the property, right? For us, we're acting as principals and we're selling our rights to the contract, right? Our equitable interest. Like I had a brokerage, Stunning Homes Realty. Keegley was licensed under a brokerage. I was a very pro wholesaler broker, right? As I was so pro wholesale as a broker that I actually became the black sheep, right? You were licensed with us, right?
Yeah.
Like I became the black sheep. They're like, oh, this is like the bad brokerage where like all the wholesalers are at. At the end of the day, it's the same activity. We just dress it a little bit differently. One, I'm marketing the property. One, I'm marketing a contract to the property. At the end of the day, the behavior is really not that different.
Well, what's interesting is it's not crystal clear the way the law is written in South Carolina. It appears, if you read it, that the assignment is still okay. Now,
it's pretty shoddy. The language is extremely shoddy.
Yeah, the language is really bad. So it appears that it says there's a difference between marketing a property and marketing a contract. Now, when I ask further questions to the REC, they say, well, you got to look at, there's a couple more words in there. It says if you're purporting, or I forget the other two words, but it's like if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck, it's a duck. Right. So and I said, okay, well, what does that mean? And they say, well, that means if you're saying the contract's for sale, but you're giving an address and pictures and a description, then come on, you're marketing a property. So even though you say contract for sale, here's a property and details about a property.
So there's two things here, right?
This is just a mess.
It's a mess. And we can dive into the nuances, right? At the end of the day, here's two things that are really important. First, right? They're giving the real estate commission the authority to regulate wholesaling. That is not a good position. Regardless of how badly the contract is written, that's the first thing. Second, this is such a minor obstacle, such a tiny hurdle to walk through, right? You've been on a mission. All of us have been on a mission, right? Pace is talking about creative finance, right? Jerry's talking about go raise private capital. Pace, I think I saw this morning, right? Pace is giving access to all his freaking private money lenders. Pace is losing his mind. Like, this is such a subtle problem. Why people are like on this outrage? I think they can just slow down and just kind of survey the landscape. It's not that difficult to navigate.
Well, it isn't for you, Steve, but if you're a newbie and raising capital, that's daunting. If you're used to doing an assignment where you've got no money, you've got a contract with a $10 earnest money, and you can back out if you can't find a buyer. I mean, this changes the game. If you take it down, you're committing to that deal now. So
how did you buy your first property, Jerry?
How did I buy my first property?
Your first property you did. How did you do it?
Private money and hard money.
How did you buy your first property?
Same thing.
A Pace?
Yeah.
My first property, like my first deal was a wholesale deal, but my first property I bought was a subto deal. So somebody else's money, and then my down payment was private money.
Yeah. You know, I was a reluctant house buyer. I was a wholesaler until I ran out of money. And then this blue genie came out of nowhere and started wholesaling all my deals. So I bought our properties too with private capital. So like, yeah, it's true. It is more daunting, right? We raised the bar, but we've only raised the bar in one state, right? And I think there's plenty of time for everyone. This is what
I just don't know if the installment method is raising the bar, Steve. That's where my concern is, because I still don't. probably don't understand it well enough, and so
Sure.
I'm really happy to have you here to, to talk about it, because from what I understood the last time we discussed,
it was a horrendous explanation last time, by the way. So I'm glad we got a chance to explain.
Which is totally fine, and this is great. We have an opportunity to really, let it breathe and talk about it. And so, when I look at the way the installment method rings out to me is that it's just another fancy word for a contract for deed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Second, if you're gonna have, well, that's saying we're not transferring title. So if it's contract for deed, that's a different thing. It's less risky for people because now we're not actually going to dirty the title up by changing title back and forth if things don't work out. Personally, that was the part that bothered me the most, was that we were going to be changing title with a $500 or $1,000 down payment, which isn't the case, right?
So let me address that, right? Because again, we did a pretty shoddy job of it last time, right? So until we started talking about installment method, title and deed were synonymous, right? Like it wasn't until like way back in real estate school that we talked about deed and title being two separate things, right? And so deed and title are two completely different things. The deed does not change hands. We were on the title to control the property, right? But the deed is not changing hands. So for all intents and purposes,
what's the difference between deed and title?
So deed is that piece of paper that says Brent Daniels, and this legal description that's like, a page long, right? That describes the actual property. Brent Daniels is the owner.
Yes.
Title says that Brent has to sign the deed, that the seller or the buyer is aware that there are easements, there's a mortgage. So
you're talking about a title report? It becomes registered on the title report?
It'd be on the title, right? It's not on the title report. A title report is just
the difference. The difference between a deed and a title is deed is who owns the property. Okay, deed is who. Remember, deed is always about who owns the property. He who controls the deed owns the property. Okay, the title is how that property is held, and so it shows up on like tenants in common is a type of title, right? Or a partnership is a type of title. So when you are a partnership and you show up on title as two different people, that is title. However, who actually controls the deed? The deed is who owns the title. Deed is who owns the property. Title is how do they own it.
Oh, got it.
That's a great explanation.
It's almost like I've been talking about creative finance for like years or something.
Maybe.
But that was the other part, right? Was that okay? So if it's not that we're going to, dirty up the deed, we're going to redefine how the title is being held, right? Which makes sense. But then there's this move where he's wanting to create this in the installment method as his intellectual property, as though he's inventing contract for deed, which I don't necessarily think is
there's
the
two
case.
nuances on top of this, right? So first, the contract for deed allows, with the installment method, right? You're allowed to market the property, right, as an equitable owner
because you're on title.
Right? And we're having the seller sign the deed and record it at the title, right? We're getting clear instructions as what's going to happen. And this is the reason why the seller doesn't have to come back to sign later on. Seller doesn't have to come back to sign a deed later on. Doesn't have to come back and approve the final transaction. That's the nuance. But I want to address the part about trademarking, right? They're not trademarking and saying that you can't do it without it, right? You guys remember, if you guys do, right? I was part of helping Eric Brewer push out Novations. Remember that? Brewer method?
Yeah.
Right? I said, hey, you have something that's magical, that's going to help the public. Come onto my show. We're going to launch the Brewer method, right? What happened after about 6 months? Everyone else was a Novations expert. Right. So that's what the trademarking is for. No one can go and sell what he's the process that he's created. Right. So it's not that you can't do an installment method without the course,
without a license.
It's that you can't go and push this other thing that's exactly like this thing and charge for it.
But what he's saying is exactly like a thing that people have been doing for a long time. So then why does he think that he has the right to own it?
He might try and own the trademark of the name. He might call it.
He could trademark installment method, right?
Right.
But we could call it the reinstallment method and it be whatever, right? It doesn't.
I think it's trademarking the mechanism, and I can't get into deep detail about all exactly how, but I can tell you the reason why, right? And I've seen it, right, with Eric Brewer, with Novations, right? We have, and not to attack anybody, right? But we got the retail buyer profits, we got the Novation King, we got Todd Toback did something. Mm-hmm. How many Novations experts came out after the Brewer method came out? So that's his goal, right? If you don't like it, like, I don't know. I think that there's nothing. I am not against a person trying to protect their profits. And I think that was probably the other thing that I was really upset about a couple of weeks ago, right? Was that they're coming out as like, how dare this guy try to profit off of creating this thing, right? And for me, my feeling was, and I was kind of raw, right? But for me, it's like, how dare anybody go out and question someone's right to make a profit for solving a problem, right? Like, when did we become a socialist society? When did we say you're not allowed to get paid to solve problems? For me, that was like one of the things, like, why would you be opposed? I'm not saying about you guys specifically, right? Because it was being said a lot on social media prior to Wholesale Hotline. It just got really heavy on Tuesday, directed at me. And I was like, I am the most anti-socialist, right? Like, I was born in a freaking refugee camp, right? Mm-hmm. Fleeing communism twice, right? My grandparents fled communism in China. My parents.
Well, how do we know you were really fleeing it and not around to spread it, Steve?
Well, at this rate, I might be part of this next revolution, right? I am going to be getting guns and moving to Montana with Pace and Jerry, or going down to Texas. I don't know, but either way, like, this idea that how dare this guy,
right,
make a product that solves a problem to get rid of regulatory measures and make a profit. So
I do have something to say about this. Please, nobody interrupt me. I have a deed that is Sam Adams' wife, who sold a piece of land on an installment contract over 200 plus years ago. We also had, who knows Armand Arbab? Do you guys know Armand Arbab on my team, who works for Oracle like 12 minutes a week?
Yeah, it's great.
He's done the research. He found that installment contracts, contract for deeds, have been around for over 400 years. Not only in real estate, but also in businesses. You can buy and sell businesses on these types of contracts as well. So we've been talking about them and doing them for years. You know, Jerry and I did a whole series on executory contract, installment sales, contract for deed, probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. But I've been teaching on them for 5 years, 6 years. The challenge I have is when somebody says, oh, installment contract or contract for deed solves the problem, but I'm going to trademark the process that I do. It's like, what keeps people from just doing their own process? Are you saying that the only process is like, maybe you put this document first before this document, and then all of a sudden it's a trademark thing? Cool. I get that. If you have your own like 5-step process of like, here's how it's done, but then somebody else comes along and says, well, we're doing the same thing, but my process is step 2 before step 1. Now, does that negate his trademark? The challenge I have is when you use the word installment contract or contract for deed as if that's trademarkable, it's being done for 300 years. That's where, I mean, imagine me coming along and saying, I invented subject to, right? I might have really brought it to the stage in a way that nobody else in 50 years have ever done that. But I never have ever said I invented it and I could trademark the process. I do have my own process for sure, but my process is non-trademarkable because it probably is trademarkable, but it's not trackable in the sense that how are all the closing attorneys in South Carolina even going to know that Gary Pickren? There's closing attorneys that don't know who freaking I am that do subto deals a different way or whatever else. And so I look at it like, if you're going to call it something and you're going to trademark it something, don't call it the thing that it's been on the books for 300 years. Call it something new, right? But if you're calling it an installment contract, you're denoting that you invented installment contracts without giving respect to the fact that those were invented 300+ years ago. That's my only qualm with it, which is a pretty like picky thing to pick about. I don't know his process. I don't know how good it is or how bad it is. I'm sure it's stellar, right? I'm sure it's phenomenal. So definitely no picking on it there. But why not call it Gary's phenomenalstrategy.com?
I actually have a great name for it. It's called the Pickering thing.
Okay, I like that. So I think that's a really stupid sticking point on my side. I also, going back to the beginning of the show, I actually want to show you guys something today. that I think is one of the big reasons I have been complaining about the wholesale industry for a long time. I am a wholesaler at heart. I always have been. You guys, all 4 of you guys on the screen have helped me in my career tremendously to get to where I'm at. I love wholesaling, and I wish it never goes away. However, this is the kind of stuff that I absolutely freaking hate. Let me do a little presentation. This is a deal that I'm currently working right now. And I'll share my screen. Just give me a second. I want to show you guys what I deal with when I'm talking to agents. Oh my gosh, again. I can't share my screen. I'm gonna stop and come back. But I talk to agents that have listings, and I'll go and submit a subject to offer. I've got one right now in Phoenix, Arizona. She wants to move forward with me. Why can't she move forward with me? Is because she's under contract right now with a wholesaler who used a half-ass sub-2 contract. It wasn't mine. It was this horrible sub-2 contract that says that he doesn't have to put in EMD for 3 days. And I go to the agent. I said, you know that there's no consideration, therefore there's no contract. There's no legal basis for the contract. She says, well, I'm just waiting for him to reply, and then I can cancel. I'm like, you're not even technically in escrow. The guy never opened up escrow, never put $1, never did consideration. Most of these agents don't know the laws. Most of these agents don't know things, and you've got wholesalers running around, running amok, making a freaking embarrassment of not just cash transactions, but also creative finance transactions, giving sub-2 a bad name. And she says, I've been under contract with this kid. He won't contact me. He won't call me. He has to like text me through some Google phone number. I'm like, it's nothing more than a wholesaler on YouTube learning how to do this business. I think we do need to regulate wholesale. I wish I could wave a magic wand, and Jerry Norton's idea of having a wholesale regulatory board and a wholesale like team would actually work. The problem is, this is not my complaint to anybody on this screen, wholesalers are inherently lazy pieces of junk. They don't want to be governed by anybody. They want to continue to live in their mother's basement without anybody telling them what to do. And heaven forbid you charge them $300 a year for some sort of licensing fee. It's, in my opinion, I don't think we have large enough reach or deep enough pockets to get the word out to the point where wholesalers will actually follow any sort of rules. They will still figure out a way to skirt around this. So I actually welcome all of the regulation. I hope that every state to some degree becomes illegal to wholesale with A, without a license, or B, without double closing, or some sort of regulation that comes along and says, you can market the contract, but you can't market the property, whatever that is. I'm okay with regulations. I'm 100% okay with regulations. I welcome it. Jerry and I are on the same page. Double close those things. Mm-hmm. Jamil's been doing a ton of double closes for his Astro students, a ton of them. I'm 100% behind that. I don't think it's as daunting as what Jerry said. This is one of the very few times I will disagree with Jerry. Jerry has a funding company. Jamil has a funding company. I have a funding company. There's not a single wholesaler on the planet that listens to any of us five that needs to worry about funding ever again on a double close, right? So if you just magically say everybody has the ability to double close, then why do we care if they regulate wholesale?
And I think the big thing, right, is like, remember that Austin Power scene with the steamroller and the guy's like screaming, right?
And it's real slow.
Yeah. Right? Like that's the regulation that's coming, is that steamroller, right? And the wholesalers are screaming like, I can't believe they're trying to regulate wholesaling. There is so much time to get around and prepare for the regulations. Jerry's been screaming it for 2 years. Like if someone's upset,
Jerry's been screaming it for 5 years.
Is it 5 years?
Jerry's been screaming it since Illinois enacted.
I think since I was
the
born,
real estate license.
I think Jerry's been screaming this.
Well, I think that's the only way that you could do it is to get a license.
Yeah.
And it is coming. I mean, Pennsylvania just introduced their new bill end of April, and they got stuff in there about disclosure. They got stuff in there about licensing. They even have something in there now. This is the first version. It hasn't gone through the House or Senate or governor. So this is just, I'm watching this, and they even have a clause in there about a reasonable fee. So now the real estate commission is going to tell us how much is reasonable. Like what's reasonable?
Right.
Like it's getting a little out of hand. Right. And this is the world we're in right now.
Well, that's why you got to wholesale. You
got to be adapting.
You got to close them. You got to be a real buyer. You got to get your ducks in a row, and it's gonna wipe out, I think, 90% of people starting out. If you need to get a license and or they regulate how much you can make per, I think you don't have that free pass to just start right now. Anybody watching this with no experience, no licensing, no contract knowledge can start right now.
So
which is awesome.
Where I hurt the most, right, for regulating the industry, because I'm very anti-regulation. Like,
yeah,
I'm probably the most anti-regulation. I don't know, Pace might compete with me, right? But for me, where it hurts me the most is we know quite a few wholesalers that have turned their lives around because of wholesaling.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? They made some poor life decisions in their first 20 years of their lives, and they turned it around. And when you break
that's me, dude. If I did not have wholesale, I would still be a contractor.
Guilty as charged.
Right. So I was the one good kid on this show. So where it hurts me is that we're taking away the livelihood of some of these, opportunities and upside. So like the great thing about wholesaling, Pace is right. They're non-compliant people, right? If you look at who our industry attracts, this is the most non-compliant group of people, not the rule followers, right? But at the same time, there's an opportunity to change their lives, to become contributing members of society. And when we regulate wholesaling, we're removing these people, right? We're removing their upside. Like, I have someone that used to play for the Cardinals. He was playing on our basketball team when I was playing basketball leagues back in the day, and he had to door knock for a living after he retired from the Cardinals, or could no longer play in the NFL, because he was unemployable anywhere else.
Sure.
Right. He could not go get a regular job. So when we regulate wholesaling, that's one more person that we're not allowing to come up like the rest of us here.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what I've been saying, and how we all can self-regulate or raise the bar or have integrity. I think there's 4 main things. I think there needs to be a profit disclosure in your contract that says, I intend to make a profit, and you're aware of that. You agree with me that that's okay. Yep. You have a right to find out what your equity is. You understand that you're selling this at a discount. Like, that's one disclosure. Another disclosure is an agency disclosure. It needs to say on there, either I'm licensed, but I'm representing myself in the transaction, or I'm not licensed and I'm representing myself in the transaction. But you, seller, understand that I either have a license or don't have a license, but you're not misled into my role. I'm not acting as an agent in this transaction, right? There needs to be an assignment disclosure in your contract that says, you understand that I may assign this contract for a profit. And you understand that I have a right to do that. Here's what an assignment is. If you don't know what an assignment is, maybe I don't know right this minute if I'm going to do an assignment, but I want you to know that that's something that may happen here. And then I think all these contingencies that allow you to back out of the contract, they don't look good. If you go before a judge and you have contingencies that allow you to back out of a contract all the way up until closing with no earned money or $10 or $100, that doesn't look good. It shows that you're not legit. It shows that you're gaming the seller, or that you're it puts you in such a bad light. Like, guys, have a reasonable contingency if you need one. Like, I have an inspection contingency. I never go over 10 days. If I can't figure out if I got issues in 10 days, then
you have no business being in contract on that house. So you're doing nothing but tying it up, right? So you're right. Absolutely.
Don't cloud titles with affidavits and then hang on to them, right? And hold them hostage. Like, these are the things that are coming to light because we're a multi-billion-dollar industry now. And enough of these complaints are reaching these consumer protection agencies, and then they accentuate them. They make stories out of them. They hit the news, and then NAR grabs them and runs with them. The RECs grab them and run with them. All of this could be prevented. Now, it is the minority. I do think that it is. I think there's 2 things. I think there are predatory wholesalers that just, lock up, close 1 out of 10 contracts, and they just sling mud at the wall. I call it. There's mudslingers. And then I think there's a lot of naive wholesalers, and they're just, they're like, I get this question all the time. Well, what if I don't have $1,000 to put down earnest money? Then go deliver pizzas until you do, right? Like,
or Gator method.
Or get a Gator to give you the $1,000.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or go get a Gator that will lend it to you. Like, show up with something. I mean, I just don't think you can show up with nothing, absolutely nothing, have the most loosey-goosey contract with sellers, back out of them while the U-Haul's, running in the driveway, and think that this is okay, and think that this isn't going to come back to haunt us. And here we are, it's haunting us. You know,
yeah, I think this is a good question that's coming up. Robert Nichols says, so why is everyone so happy about regulations if we all admit that if it wasn't for wholesaling, we would be broke? The reason being is because the majority of us, Robert, are doing things the way we should be doing. And the people who are not doing them are giving us a bad name. Sadly, we have no control over that as individuals. And so we are welcoming regulation because the regulators have more money, they have more power, they have more reach. And if they're going to weed those people out of the industry, and the only difference now in wholesale is that I have to double close or disclose things or get a license, but I can continue to make the money that I'm making, maybe even more, because I don't have to compete with those idiots. It actually makes wholesaling way better. And it is no different, really. I mean, check this out. I now can show you guys my screen. Check this deal out that I'm working on right now. I'm talking to the seller. The seller, by the way, you can tell me, does the seller have a listing? If you're looking right here. Yes, the seller has a listing, has a real estate agent. Why is a seller reaching out to me and negotiating on behalf of their real estate agent?
Backdooring their agent.
Why are they doing that? Okay. Why are they doing that? Because wholesalers like us actually provide a service to sellers and agents that don't know what they're doing. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now check this out. I told the seller, like I do in every conversation, by the way, this is yesterday at 2:50 p.m. Okay. This is all of us on this screen are doing this business actively. Okay. Let me know if this is a deal that someone might be interested in. Why would she have said that, my friends? It's because I started the conversation like I do with every conversation. I might not be the buyer. And if I'm not, I'm happy to go find a buyer as long as you know I'm going to get paid in the transaction. She says, oh, okay. Are you an agent? I said, no, I'm what we call a wholesaler. I can find buyers for your products. Okay. Just like what I told her is I told her the analogy of a milk farmer. Why doesn't the milk farmer directly sell the milk to the consumer? Is because the consumer and the farmer don't know who each other are. That's what the grocery store is for. So I'm basically the grocery store. You have the milk. Let me go find the customer for you. And if I can make some profit, are you okay with that? She goes, okay, so yeah, you buy it at a wholesale price from me. You say, okay, yeah, I'm cool with that. So her email to me today on her property, as she's backdooring her agent, is you might find somebody else to buy this deal. Guys, welcome to wholesale. We love wholesale.
And if you're a wholesaler and you're ever talking to a seller and you find out there's a listing agent involved, you stop that conversation immediately. There's a listing agreement with an agent. You go talk to the agent. The agent is the representation for that seller. Now, the seller could be doing that because they're backdooring the agent. They don't understand their agency agreement, but you do. You're a wholesaler, or at least you should know. If there's an agent involved, you talk with the agent, not the seller. Okay, that's how it works.
That's a very politically correct answer.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody
it's the way to do it.
This is my favorite question.
It's the recommended way to do it. Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Why is everybody mad at Steve Trang?
Because I'm passing laws left and right.
Guys, here's why there's frustration towards Steve Trang is a very large misunderstanding. Okay.
Yeah.
Steve Trang a couple months ago comes on Wholesale Hotline with I don't know the kid's name, so I'm going to be really, really frank. With a kid that did not know how to explain real estate. And it was not a good look on Steve at the time. Steve probably was sitting next to this kid going, oh, this is not going well, right? And what he was talking about is this installment method, and I beat it up the whole time, and everybody beat it up the whole time. And Steve afterwards was like, guys, we did a really bad job of explaining that. I'm so sorry. That's an isolated incident. Then a couple months later, somebody says that Steve Trang is involved with the guy who invented the installment method, who is also making it so South Carolina wholesaling is now illegal. Steve is on the show today to correct both of those pieces of information. The kid that was explaining the installment method did a horrible job. Okay. Steve owns up to that. There's a method that nobody's still explained to anybody, but we assume that it's this really cool thing that Gary Pickren invented. And I'm not saying that facetiously. And Steve was also saying, I'm not associated with any of this lawmaking crap. I actually love wholesaling. Wholesaling made my career. Why would I want to get rid of it? All five of us are saying the same thing. Okay. We love wholesaling. Wholesaling is going to stick around. The only thing that's going to happen, okay, to wholesaling is that there's going to be some regulation and maybe one more step you have to do to get a deal. And for the wholesalers that are actually serious about this business, do we all agree, all 5 of us, that that actually benefits the wholesale industry as a whole?
Yes, sir.
It benefits the people that are actually wholesaling, right? The people that are actively wholesaling today, I think it benefits. I think it raises the bar, right? So it's, I think Robert Nichols asked the question, right? Like, why are you guys happy? I'm not happy about it. I'm genuinely not happy about it. But at the same time, being a business owner, what happens, right? COVID happens, right? Interest rates skyrocket. Like, things happen, and you have to be nimble. You have to
hedge funds go away,
right? Like, things happen. You have to be ready to pivot. If you can't pivot, you're going to be irrelevant, and that's just the nature of business. I want to add one other thing too, because like the irony of all this is that I actually had the opportunity to get involved in the Arizona regulation, right? I happen to know the guy that wrote the law for the Arizona regulation, and it was someone DM me. It's like, hey, what do you know about this bill they're passing in Arizona? I was like, I don't know anything about it. Let me look it up. I look it up. My friend wrote it, and I sent him a text message. It's like, how can you pass a bill without even giving me a call? That's ridiculous, right? He's like, I'm sorry. I said, let me take a look at it. I looked at it. I was like, this is horrific. This is piss poor. This has no freaking teeth, right? He's like, how would you fix it? Like, you're out of your damn mind if you think I'm going to get involved in regulating wholesaling in Arizona. I am not going to be involved in that, right? You go do whatever you got to do. I am not putting I'm not putting my reputation in any way on this.
When was that, Steve?
Whenever they passed it, was it 2-3 years ago?
That was the disclosure bill.
Like, I'm going to wholesale. I have to disclose it to the seller and the buyer, because God forbid, Brent, I take advantage of Brent Daniels that's buying my property.
Right.
Well, it is going to be interesting how this shakes out in South Carolina, because I did an interview the other day with Rick Marsh's partner, the South Carolina. What's his name? Rick Wendemeyer.
Gary Marsh.
No, his partner. So Gary's licensed in North Carolina. The partner is licensed in South Carolina. I talked to the South Carolina lawyer, and he said to me on the interview, he said, we talked to title. Our underwriting's okay with assignments and double closings. We're going to continue as normal in South Carolina. Okay. Now, I've called like a dozen other title companies, all from wholesalers saying that they're wholesaling with these title companies, and they all are like, we really don't want to talk to you about this. We don't want to go on record about this. We're not doing it anymore. We definitely are not. We don't want to be quoted about this. We're very worried about this. And then I see today on Subto that Harry Marsh did not do a double closing. He said, with the new South Carolina law, we do not want to double close this transaction. That's Rick Whetstone. Yeah, that's his name. So here, this is, Rick says this last week. This was last Wednesday. He says, yeah, we're doing it as normal. And he did say to me, he said, unless something changes. And then I saw today on Subto, Harry Marsh saying, or somebody saying that Harry Marsh said, so I don't know, I'm getting this third person, that they are not doing a double closing specifically because of the new South Carolina law. And guys, keep in mind, the way South Carolina, if it's what we think it is or what it's perceived as, you don't double close either, because what they're saying prior to
marketing of the contract,
prior to taking legal ownership. So a double close would be prior to taking legal ownership. So you would not be able to submit your BC closing, your BC transaction until after you've closed the AB, which means you're not getting your buyer until you close it. Now you're going back to a traditional wholesale or a takedown, right?
There's actually multiple ways to do this. I mean, think about contract for deed with like no money down. You could do a contract for deed, right? You can do even a lease option. Think about a lease option. I have control of an asset through a lease option, right? I have control of the asset. If I have a lease with the seller for 30 days and my option on that lease gives me the ability to sell it for cash, you get around every single law with multiple ways of creative finance. It's not just installment contract for deed. You can do this also with Subto, right? I could do a Subto deal, I could close on the deal with no money out of pocket other than closing costs. I don't need to double close. I could close on a Subto deal or a hybrid or a seller finance deal with no money down, and I have 45 days until my first pay due. Multiple ways around this. Like
you could do the LLC where you contracted in an LLC and sell the membership rights of the LLC. I think though, like you look at all of these and it does create friction because there's a little bit more involved in an installment or any of these creative finance. Corbin.
Hi.
Corbin, I miss you, Corbin. I know. They love you too. We're going to see you in like 3 weeks.
Say, hurry up.
Hurry up.
Bring your truck.
Bring your truck.
We want you to bring your Japanese truck, bro.
The little tiny truck?
Yeah. Keep going, Jerry. Sorry to cut you off.
I was just saying, like there are a few more moving parts. There's some more things you need to learn. You got to do well at explaining these new ideas to a seller versus just a straight cash transaction. So again, it creates a little bit of friction. Here's what cracks me up, or what I'm just like stunned at, is a little bit of friction, like get a license or learn these other techniques. And you got people leaving the industry in droves because of a little bit of friction.
But dude, look, it was either going to be a little bit of friction from, the mechanics of how to do wholesale, or it was going to be a seller yelling at them, or it was going to be an agent who says, no, I'm not going to take your offer. And it's like,
20 cold calls in and then you quit. Yeah.
And then they're, there they are saying, well, every time I talk to a seller, every time I talk to an agent, it's like, how many times is every time? 4? Got it.
Yeah. Yeah, it doesn't work, Jamil. How many times have you done it? Oh, 5? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good sample. That you know what? I agree. That's enough.
It doesn't work. You're right. Yeah.
Man alive. I imagine if I sat down in a room with me and Jerry Norton, and all we did was call sellers for like 4 hours straight on expired listings. And we heard, like, if you call expired listings, Jerry Norton and I are in the same room. You give us 4 hours. How many contracts are we getting?
Are we
getting 1? We getting 2? We getting 3? Like we just did a closers competition a couple months back. I got 12 contracts in my first hour. Jerry kept just wiped the floor with freaking everybody. I think you might have won the whole thing. I can't remember, but I watch. It is dumbfounding to me that one little piece of friction keeps people from making millions of dollars. And then you realize why there's the 99% and the 1%. It's not because of where you were born. It's not the color of your skin. It's not any of those things. It is literally your willingness to show up and do the work. And I think that this is the only reason I like the regulation is because 2 things. 1, great educators like a Jamil, like a Jerry, like a Brent, okay, teaching wholesale, doing all this stuff. Yours and Steve and me. I'm going to tell you guys right now, here's what's going to happen. We are all going to provide funding upon the person coming into our mentorship for all of these transactions. This will be a nominal thing, and people will join our stuff, and it will actually grow because of this, which is great. But the main thing is my main business will make more money because people will just leave. They'll go, oh, I have another step. I'm out. And I'll make my actual real estate business will become actually 10 times more easy. Sadly, it will. Akulu says, how can you get 12 contracts locked up in 1 hour? How's that possible? Because I have there's no regulations and I can do whatever I want. I did do it on a recorded Zoom with like 400 people around me too. So it's verified, verified. It does clear the playing field, and it's kind of sad. Now, what will people go do? What is the easy thing for people to go do? Because now all they need is a double close, right? I think the problem is people are so afraid of risk, right? So let's talk about a double close or something along those lines. You now have to have a conversation with somebody who has money. That's scary. It's easy, even though I'm like, I will fund your deals. Email me, money@pacemorby.com. I will fund your deals. Jerry has a funding program. Jamil has a funding program. We want you to use our money. People having that conversation, they're afraid of it. Then the conversation of I need to close on it and then market it means they have to take on risk. Actually, what they really have to do is learn how to actually evaluate properties and watch Jamil's YouTube channel. And they won't do that. They don't want to go learn how to comp. They just want to do what Jerry said is mudsling and throwing contracts out there all day, every day. And wait until they find a buyer, just throw it online and hope they find a buyer. And whatever they don't find a buyer to, do they even cancel the contracts? No.
They just ghost.
They just ghost the seller or they ghost the agent. And so I hope those people leave the industry. It gives us all a bad name. So
no, they file memorandums and then squeeze $10,000 out of the real buyer that wants to close that deal and help that seller out. That's the problem we run into. I don't know who taught it. I don't know where it came from. I don't know who started talking about, hey, just lock up a deal at any price and then disappear on the seller and then just hold them hostage for $5,000-$10,000 to remove a cloud on a title. It's gross, but it happens. And that's not, listen, having a license is not going to stop that. Outlawing a wholesaling is not going to stop either one of those things.
A license isn't going to stop anything. If you're shady, a license is going to make you shady with a license. I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but people clump that in with wholesalers. They go, oh, it's one of those wholesalers that did this to you. No, it's scammers. It's scammers that are just trying to like throw mud into this industry and just, I don't know. It's like morally bankrupt actions. I don't know how you could sleep at night doing that type of thing. I mean, it's gross.
Psychopaths. They've got no problems hurting other people, right? They're just out there for themselves. And like,
but that's what agents think wholesalers are.
Yeah. Check this out, guys. Check this. Let me show you something. This is a deal I'm working on right now. Okay. This is an agent. I'm literally in the process of buying this house. So somebody on here, please do not steal my lead.
Done.
I represent a seller who needs to move quick and has low equity as they bought the house 2 years ago. We've been on the MLS with no movement, even with several price drops and listed lower than model matches in the area. Welcome to 2024, 2025, and potentially 2026. This is the new norm. Okay. So here's the address. You can look it up. Please let me know if you have any interest in this property as a sub-2 purchase. Okay. By the way, did you guys know that I have the word sub-2 trademarked?
Nice.
I wish that was a joke. It's not. Okay. So check this out. So she goes in, she tells me the deal. Here's the part I want you to read right here. She says, we were under contract with another investor with a sub-2 agreement. Now I got on a phone call with her. I saw the contract. It's a garbage contract. But what did she call this person? She called this person an investor.
Mm-hmm.
So agents actually don't know the difference between a wholesaler and an investor because the people that are calling and getting them under contract are not telling them what they're actually doing and saying, hey, looks like you're having a hard time selling the property. If I got that property under contract subject to, I could help you go and find a buyer. Would you be okay with that? That's the way it should have been done. Instead, what did they say on the phone is they said, I'm the buyer. Okay. They also, check this out. They have not deposited earnest money, have stopped communicating, and it sounds like it's going to fall through. You think? I have sent a cure notice and a mutual cancellation from yesterday, hoping they will just cancel so that I can move forward. If not, the cure notice should take care of everything. So what you've done is you've taken an agent who does not get paid to play games with you, okay? You have wasted their time, you wasted the seller's time, and you've taken the house off the market for another family to potentially look at, all because you don't want to actually learn how to comp a property and understand what buyers want. You just don't want to learn the skills. And so what you're doing is you're listening, no offense to the people that are on TikTok, you're listening to these people that are doing 45-second clips on TikTok that are going viral about wholesale, and they're kids that are doing like little, even, I don't want to say his name because he's our friend, but we have a friend that's really popular on TikTok as a wholesaler. And I watch the way he educates on wholesale. I'm like, bro, you're not actually teaching people how this is supposed to work. You're just telling people to throw out contracts and see it. Oh, there's no risk because you have a 10-day inspection period and you can just go out and that is not how this business is supposed to work.
And Pace, and that agent now all wholesalers are bad because they had a bad experience with one wholesaler. So then when that agent talks to Jamil, they don't want to do business anymore because they had a bad experience with a wholesaler. Like, this is how detrimental it is when you burn bridges. You ruin it for a lot of people when you do that. And now, like, I get on the phone with that agent, I've got to overcome all of that. I got to work through all of that because of some other wholesaler who locked it up, went dark, like didn't even have the class to say, look, you know what, I'm going to exercise my contingency, and I'm I'm going to be cooperative here to get out of this so that you can like, not even that, just went dark.
How to have a grown-up conversation. I do like Pace's email though. Like, was the seller trying to get some cash, or were you looking to get your commission paid?
I saw that.
I love that. I love that question, Pace.
I know. I could do a sales masterclass right now on that whole entire thing. By the way, can I show you this? How genius this actually this line is? It's way more beta than what we're even saying. Check this line out. This is too good. So the way I positioned myself, I said, okay, I'm in Montana now, but I'll be back in Phoenix next week. What does that have to do with me doing a deal? What I'm actually doing is I'm showing them that I have no rush. I'm doing the pull away, right? In every single conversation, all the time, I'm doing the pull away. But I said, does the seller need cash, or are we just focusing on getting your commissions paid? I position myself as the agent's best friend.
Alignment.
Right? This is something Jerry and Jamil do incredibly well. And so I asked the question, are we just focusing on getting your commissions paid? So by the way, I could go all the way down through the conversations and tell you the whole entire process, but I ain't going to do that because it would take too much time. But I got the agent to reduce their commissions, and the seller's going to walk away with no money out of pocket, or no money in their pocket to get rid of the house. They originally wanted 20 grand. So the agent says, well, the other investor was willing to give 20 grand. And I said, how did that work out?
Didn't perform. What are you talking about?
There's
no other investor.
Exactly. So it said your cure note, you're giving somebody a cure notice. A cure means there's a disease. Okay. There's a problem, and you have to cure that problem with, this diseased human being. That's
another investor that didn't have the funds to put down earnest money. Give me 20K. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. There you go. And so anyway, I said the thing I said, oh, okay, well, $20,000 is probably out of my range. I'm just curious. Did they put up the $20,000 and walk away from the $20,000? Did that not? Anyway, you should see the emails. It's freaking gorgeous. But the thing about this as well on the EMD side, guys, we've had Sean St. Clair and multiple attorneys come in here and talk about EMD. EMD is legally required in all 50 states. The word consideration is what is used. $1, $10, whatever it is, you have to have consideration beyond your contract to actually open a valid agreement. You can't just do no money out of your pocket, no EMD. You have to have some sort of EMD, $10, whatever. But if you're working with an agent, Jamil, what's the average agent want on EMD?
Typically $2,000, 1%, 1% or $2,000 in Arizona, but typically, 1% in most states.
So, if we could like force people to be honest with sellers, be honest with agents, use their inspection periods properly, open escrow with EMD, and tell the seller and tell the agent, hey, I'm probably not going to be the buyer, but I'm going to go find a buyer and I'm going to get an assignment fee. Dude, this business would be freaking beautiful. But people don't want to learn the sales skills like Steve Trang teaches. I don't want to learn how to do the upfront contracts, and I don't want to have disclosure. I don't want to learn anything. I just want to be a lazy lump on a log. And for you guys, okay, not you guys on the screen, but you guys out there that are lumps on the log, you're going to be the first people to get replaced with AI. Okay, my robot or somebody else's robot's going to replace your job. You're not willing to scale, adapt, and move forward and get new skills. You're going to get completely wiped off the place.
That's not an experiment for you.
Yep. Hit me.
What do you think could work harder? AI or Pace?
Pace.
At what?
You guys don't know this. I've basically lived with this man for a year. He is AI.
I actually think Jerry has a harder work life than I do. That guy when he's not working on real estate, he's working on wrangling 10 children. That is a lot more work. I only have 4.
And keeping the population of iguanas down in Puerto Rico. I mean, that's like top of the priority list.
Somebody's got to do it.
I thought Jerry had the easy life and the wife did all the work.
Is that it?
That's
how that works? Yeah. He looks very relaxed.
Jerry, I've got a question for you
right now.
Yeah.
I've got a question for Jerry. Let's say a regulation across the board, okay? All 50 states. Wholesalers obviously got to adopt creative finance. That's obviously got to happen. Besides that, what skills or relationships do I need in order for me to continue to do wholesale activities nationwide if this is the type of regulation we have?
Yeah, I mean, I've been saying it, and this is kind of what I'm shouting from the rooftops, is you have to learn how to get capitalized. because if you've got access,
what does that mean, Jerry?
Just access to capital. So you can sit down with a seller and you can say, look, I can buy this property. I am the buyer. I'll remove contingencies. I'll give you earnest money, and I can close on Friday because I've got backing. I've got money backing me, and I'm willing to put myself in the place. I'm willing to deserve the low cash offer I'm making, right? I'm willing to earn this deal because I've got capital behind me to do this. Now, if you got to go get hard money and they need to do an appraisal, I mean, that's going to put you at a disadvantage because you're going to need 30 days to 45 days to close that type of financing. So like what I'm doing is I'm raising capital for me and my partners so that it's readily available. I want that money there so that we can close in 3 days when title clears if we need to. That's how you're going to get the good deals, and that's how you're going to win in this game. To me, that's how you can really scale like that, because now if you're buying everything, you're going to then own it. You're going to trash it out, clean it, take new pictures. You're going to now be able to go to any and all channels you want to remarket that property, and you're going to get the most exposure. You're going to have the easiest process to show those properties, right? So that's where I think ultimately the future is. Now, I'm a big creative guy like Pace. Like I love creative. So I'm always having that conversation because if I can get into that deal with little to no money down instead of bringing capital to the deal, I'm going to do that every single time. In fact, I can typically pay a lot more if you'll wait to get some or all of your money, right? Like that's the conversation we're having. But if it's a urgent low cash situation and I can anchor low and get that deal low and I've got the capital behind it, I want to be able to buy that property and then resell, then market it and resell.
Okay. So Jared, that's a great answer. I love that. Jared Hetler's great comment, Jared, but I think there's something you might be missing. He says, just go get a license. Jared, if you listen to the South Carolina law, you cannot even wholesale as a licensed agent.
My prediction is a license is a Band-Aid. Here's the licensing. The licensing brings you under the jurisdiction of the real estate commission. That's all that's intended to do. They're not thinking that the license is going to somehow educate you better. They want control over you. So now they have control over. Once they have control over you and they say wholesaling is now a licensing thing, now what's the next step? I'll tell you what, the next year's regulation is going to come out and it's going to whammo it. That's what South Carolina is doing. South Carolina is saying, hey, this is wholesaling. We want you to have a license. Oh, by the way, if you have a license, you're not allowed to do this anymore. Okay. So this is what I tell everybody. What's the writing on the wall? What's the narrative out there? Is it, hey, we just want you better educated? No, that's not the narrative. The narrative is it's predatory, it's harmful, it's deceitful, it steals equity. The narrative is really, really bad about what wholesaling is and does. So do you think
I would say, Jerry, the narrative is really what the reason and spelling error. I'm sorry, that's your name on YouTube. I'd call you by your real name, but maybe it's spelling error. But whatever it is, what I want to point out is it has nothing to do with us wanting to push people to using our transactional funding or to go. In fact, we're telling folks to go out and raise their own money, not use ours. Go figure out how to raise capital, learn the skill.
I would even go deeper. Let me just, before you go on to your point, Jamil, I want to point something out real quick. Spelling error. We are on episode 221. Go back to episode 1 and listen to all the times for over 4 years, spelling error. How many times we said, guys, you got to stop doing these things. We're going to get regulated. Guys, you got to stop doing these things. We're going to get regulated. Guys, you got to stop doing these things. We're going to get regulated. And then 2 years later, Jerry goes, we're getting regulated. We're getting regulated. We're getting regulated. These bad actors won't stop. Even though we have a podcast that gets 100,000 downloads a month, y'all won't just listen to doing things the right way. Unfortunately, we did not push regulation. We had to react with transactional funding to regulation we had no control over, even though we've been educating to do it the right way for 4 years. So for you who just popped in here for the first time in your life, go back to episode 1 before you open your mouth and come and find me. I will beat you down with 4 years of wholesale podcasts showing people that we have been telling them to do it the damn right way for the last 4 years. We deserve to be regulated as an industry if people can't listen to an open-formed podcast that has like 20 million downloads. Okay, 20 million downloads this podcast has had, and people still do what I just showed you on my active deal. My active deal has a sub-2 person, not one of my students, somebody learning off YouTube, going and doing things the wrong way. This is happening every day. I look at it and go, dude, if 4 years of an open podcast can't solve this problem, then what the heck is going to? What is going to solve it? Jerry tried to start a wholesale regulatory board to get everybody on the same page and start fighting the NAR. Nobody signed up for it.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Mm-hmm.
No, in fact, when we were trying to create the board, or you're trying to create the safeguard, the association that's supposed to help us, we got nothing but negativity. Mm-hmm. Again, being accused of trying to create some kind of a gatekeeping situation here, which again, guys, like Pace said, go back to episode 1, go back to and hear for how long what we've been talking about, how much we've been trying to help people do it correctly. But again, it always becomes a, and I'm not mad at it. There's a part of our human brain which naturally skews to thinking that everything is a threat, everything is out to get you, everything wants to, find something, find an opportunity to hurt you or to get one over on you. But this community, we've shown over the last 4 years, we've shown in this community that there are at least a few people, but I would say hundreds of people, if not thousands of people, who don't subscribe to that, who want to help one another, who want to collaborate, who want to be better human beings, who want to do things with high integrity and ethics. That's the energy that we're bringing here, brothers and sisters. If you are a sister there, spelling error, I'm not sure.
I think, this is a good question, Jerry, right here. Can we still sign up for Jerry's association? My personal opinion, before we ask Jerry this question, there are 1.6 million agents paying association dues to the NAR. Okay. They have way more money than we could ever comprehend. We don't have the resources to fight them. That's the problem that I'm finding. I see, even if we have 20 million downloads on here, trying to convince people that we're doing something for good. I mean, look what happens when we just talk about regulation and go, we welcome regulation because we can't stop it. Y'all are just going to keep doing it the wrong way. And then somebody goes, oh, you guys are just fans of it because you're making money. Damn, bro. That's the problem. Can I tell you the straight up problem is that wholesalers' whole entire mentality is F the man. So having a regulation or an association for wholesalers is the man. Nobody will sign up for it because they don't, the freaking group of people, the demographic of wholesalers, 80% of them are like, I never want to get licensed. And if I have one hint of getting a license, I'm going to go do e-com. I'm going to go do solar sales. Okay. Whatever it is. But I could be wrong. Jerry knows way more than I do about this. But Jerry, is the association still a possible thing?
I mean, it's created, but it's going to take a lot of work. And that's the other thing. Like, who wants to help? No one raises their hand. No one wants to help. No one wants to volunteer. No one wants to have a part. And so I don't know. I don't think it's worth the energy now at this point because of what you just described, Pace.
Yeah.
I think we're better off pivoting and trying to do things the right way. Keep your nose clean. I don't know that unless a bunch of people want to come forward and really work hard at this, I don't know that it's worth it now at this point is my and why we sort of backed off on it. And it's got nothing but a bunch of negative publicity on our part for trying to somehow monopolize, or I don't know, somehow take advantage.
It's a money grab for us, Jerry. Obviously, we're going to take all those funds and we're going to buy cabins and we're going to.
It's a nonprofit, you guys. I mean, it's a nonprofit. You can't take the money. I mean, come on.
Well, there's loopholes. I know you guys. You guys are smart. You'll get attorneys to steal the money. It'll be a whole. Let me ask you this though. And this is really serious to everybody. And I'll start with you, Steve, and then we can go around. Let's say they require us to get a license. Let's say that when we get a license, they will not let us wholesale.
All right.
If we have enough quality conversations with homeowners or the people that represent homeowners and make enough offers, can we still accomplish whatever financial goals we want
100%
or have?
100%.
Does that prevent us from doing any of that?
No. Just because one exit strategy has been eliminated doesn't mean you don't have 1,000 different other tools in real estate.
Pace?
So, yeah.
It's not even, I know Steve just saying that it's just a figure of speech, but they're not eliminating an exit strategy. They're adding one step.
Adding a layer, exactly.
They're adding a layer, right? It's like it's no big deal either. In fact, the majority of us that are higher level in the wholesale game, we do a lot of double closes already.
Oh yeah.
Right? We don't want to mess around with not double closing, especially when we're making 50, 70,000. Brent, I think the majority of his business now, we close it, we list it, right?
We do a lot of the post possessions with the property owners as well. It's a great technique for us. We're able to get deals that other people can't get because the property owner wants their money first and then decide, how they're going to move out in 30, 60 days. And
I freaking love that.
It's really difficult to do that if you're just passing that off to somebody else. So we get tremendous deals by closing and doing post possession. So it actually opens up the toolbox for us.
So my point is, I don't think it stops or changes anything. The people that want to make money are going to make even more money. And I don't think the KPIs change. I don't think you even need to make more calls or do any more work. I actually think it's going to cause a lot of I think it's going to make wholesaling easy, to be honest. You might not be able to call it wholesaling, right? I don't know what you would call it. Maybe the Rhino method or whatever, but closing on the deal and then selling the property, I don't see how that causes any sort of complications or causes people like us to lose more money.
We're making 2 to 4 times as much doing a takedown and resell it than we are doing traditional.
Come on, Jerry.
Yep. And I'm testing both. So here's what I'm doing. We get the contract, we take it to dispo, we see our highest and best offer, we decide if we're going to take it. If we feel like we can get more taking it down, we take it down. So I have a comparison. We just did one that was a 65K wholesale, like traditional assignment, 65K. We did not take it. We bought it, resold it for 120,000 net after commissions, financing fees, closing fees, net 120,000. That would have been, a 65, which would have been, an amazing, awesome home run wholesale deal, but we made double the money doing it that way. So not only is it going to have a blip in your KPIs, but you if you do it right, you should make 2 to 4 times more. Maybe doing some of these other things. It's going to force you to think outside the box a lot. And here's the one thing I wanted to say, Pace, about what you were saying there is I feel a moral obligation as an educator in the industry to be on top of what these regulations are and to inform people that are in this industry what's happening. And I get a lot of hate for it. I'm called fear mongering and all this stuff. Just for what? Sharing with you what's happening. When Pennsylvania happens, I'm going to talk about it. And people are going to be like, oh, what do you want me to do? Pretend like it's not happening? Would you prefer that? Would you rather go in the dark or get a cease and desist order from the commission? Or what do you want to happen? You know what I mean?
Don't want you to stop doing it because I get all the wholesale regulation news from Jerry Norton's channel.
100%. Jamil, what do you think?
No, I wholly support the things that our friends are saying here. I think first, it's not the elimination of an exit strategy; it's the addition of a layer to the exit strategy. I think the complexity is not as difficult as people think it's going to be. It just got to wrap our heads around what it is that we got to do. The mechanics changed a little bit. That's all. At the end of the day, if we listen to what the core arguments are that we're making here, wholesalers, you have to educate yourselves. You have to learn how to value property. You have to learn how to be a real investor and raise capital to close your deals when necessary. You have to understand that as business people, that risk is inherent. And so you're going to need to put your big boy and big girl pants on and understand that there will be risk at some points and bring in people to the table with you who are willing to take that risk with you because they believe that you have done your due diligence and learned how to value property and understand what's a good skill. Now, with all of those pieces together, in addition to that, Jerry, Pace, myself, we've brought to the table funding companies to help you guys. So there's so many resources available. There's so much that you can use to your advantage here to be able to make this a non-issue. But
can we talk about that a little bit, Jamil? Like people hear that, but I think what people naturally think is, oh, I'm going to I'm going to have to put in a lot of information, or I'm going to have experience, or I'm going to have a huge amount down. Like, what is it like? Can you guys speak to what is required? What do you guys actually
on a transactional funding deal? For transactional funding, okay, you need to have had your deal closed. Okay, you need to have your deal sold. So you need to have an AB and you need to have a BC. That's what will qualify transactional funding, because we're there to fund the transaction. If there's no transaction, there's no funding.
Can you just third grade, what is transactional funding?
Transactional funding is we give you the money to buy the property so that it can then be
from
sold.
From the seller,
right?
Okay. So you have a purchase agreement with a seller. You'll give us how much?
100%. 100%
of the closing cost too?
Yep.
All of it, 100% of the money.
So all the cash, guys, if you've never closed a deal before, it's called the cash to close. That's what the title company and closing attorney is going to be looking for. They're going to say, this is the amount, the total amount cash to close. And you're saying, Jamil, you're willing to give 100% if there is already another contract with a cash buyer?
Correct.
That closes when?
Within 72 hours.
Within 3 days of you buying it.
Correct.
So your money, you wire in the money from your funding.
Correct.
And there's what else is required? Do they need to have a 700 credit score?
No.
Do they have to have a W-2, pay stuff?
No, but their buyer needs to have non-refundable earnest money in to secure their sale. That's it.
Okay.
That's
How
the
much?
risk. The risk typically about $5,000, $3,000 to $5,000.
Okay.
And so that's the risk we take as a transactional funder, because let's just say, for instance, your buyer backs out last minute, and now we have a property that we funded on. So as a lender, I have to look at the efficacy of the deal. When I say efficacy, I mean I have to look at, is the deal a good deal or not?
Are you looking at these deals, or somebody on your staff?
It's both.
Okay.
It's both. It could be somebody on the staff. If it's a larger amount, it'll have myself or my partner, somebody who's going to send the wire will take a look at it prior to, just to make sure that we're comfortable owning this property if we have to own the property. That's all. Right. And so that's the risk the lender takes, is that, am I comfortable owning this property if I have to own the property? If yes, let's do the deal. If not, if I don't want to, then I need you to have skin in the game. And that's going to change this from transactional funding to a hard money transaction, right? Where I'm going to say to you, okay, look, you want to buy this property. You want to take this property down. You don't have a buyer in place. You're going to need to then come into the deal with a little bit of money down in order to make this. Sometimes it's 10%. But guys, there's hard money lenders out there who will do 100%.
Yeah.
Pace introduced me to a lender in Phoenix, Frank West Capital, that does 100% financing. Yeah, they've got a higher interest rate, but they'll do 100% financing, meaning that they'll fund the entire freaking deal.
They did one for me today.
Yeah, and for us,
right, 100%.
100%.
In mine, for my students, we do the first one for free. So if anybody's like, okay, you're just trying to profit off of all that, we do the first one for free, and then the second and subsequent ones we do for 1%, which is a really competitive rate.
Hey, can I get a link to sign up for your course? I want to get 100% financing for free.
Yeah, you get the first one for free. And what Jamil said is, I'm highly focused on the BC. So, I want to look at the deal, and I got to understand the risk if the BC falls out. But if the BC's got enough skin in the game, I really don't care what the deal is. I really don't even want to underwrite the AB, because I know that cash buyer is not going to walk from a $5,000 or $10,000 earnest money, or very low chance that that's going to happen.
Yeah, right. I want to just hit one more thing, right? Just because same thing I said in the very beginning, right? So I came on the show. There's a few names I wanted to defend, right?
Yes.
Myself, because I was under attack a little bit. Gary, right? I think he's one of the good guys. Devin, who was here a few months ago, right? Like, he's a good kid.
Yeah.
Did not explain it to the degree we should have been able to explain it. But he's a good kid, right? He's adopted an entire family. He's got 3 foster kids, right? Like, the guy's got a good heart. He's trying his best. And then Jerry, right? Like, Jerry is getting blasted too. So like Jerry, Gary, primarily, right, is getting blasted. And I think it's outrageous. And here's my position. The anti-guru gurus who are putting Jerry on blast, putting me kind of on blast for being fear mongers. What are we going to do about their credibility in 30 to 90 days when they're 100% wrong?
Who are those people? Is that the guy out of Florida, the father-son duo?
Yeah,
maybe.
Okay. I blocked them a long time ago. I forgot their names. I blocked them a long time ago. Like it
turns out they blocked me as well. So I thought that was kind of
it was so funny when I remember he was in a conversation with somebody on the screen talking about, oh, all you are is a guru and you charge people. And I'm like, bro, every single one of your videos, it has a prop stream link and a this link and a that link. And I'm like, bro, what are you talking about, man? Like, why? That's the anti-guru you're talking about. He was attacking Jerry?
Attacking Jerry, attacking Gary, attacking
Does
myself.
he not know that Jerry has a mini truck? And like, that's...
He's got a whole fleet of mini trucks, don't you, Jerry?
4, yeah, because you can't. Yeah.
Bro, what is the deal with you? Why can I not get one? How do I get one of these suckers?
It takes forever. You got to ship it from Japan.
Well,
you
now I just have to have you ship
face.
it from Puerto Rico to Montana.
I know we should ship them to Montana. You know how fun those would be in Montana, Pace driving around your property.
Oh my gosh.
They're 4-wheel drive. The tires are like this big.
When are you coming?
Like 3 weeks.
Wow.
But in all seriousness, no.
Yeah.
People that are blasting Jerry.
I'm waiting for the pickleball.
What do you have to say about their credibility when they're 100% wrong? Are they going to come out and apologize? Jerry, I am sorry that we were lying to people and saying you're fear-mongering and we were 100% wrong.
Were they saying he was fear-mongering because he was wrong about something or what?
They're saying that Jerry is promoting this installment method guy because somehow they're all trying to make money together.
Nice.
I just interviewed Gary on my channel to get their perspective. That's it. I just interviewed him and he shared this is where the commission sits and this is what they're looking at and doing and all of that. Well, but that's been going on. I mean, because I've been talking about it for a while. So then, but you know what? The hate's there. I'm used to that. That just rolls off. I'm not really bothered about that. But what I'm bothered about. It doesn't
bother you. Here's what bothers me, right? You're going out there, Jerry, and you're doing good work. And you're educating people. You're sharing. You're reporting, right? You don't have an agenda. Like, this is what's good for our industry. Here's what you guys need to know. Here's what's coming down the pike. And I want you guys to be prepared for it.
Mm-hmm.
And it pisses me off.
And here's what I'm doing. And here's what I'm doing to pivot. You could do it too if you want, or do whatever you want. But, like that's all my content is like, here's what I'm doing. Here's what's working for me. And, I'm giving you access to the same things that I'm doing.
I had Jerry on my show to talk about what was coming. It's one of my most downloaded episodes, right? Because how valuable Jerry's information is. So it pisses me off that people will go out and tear Jerry's name down. He's one of the good guys. I can't stand for it.
Yeah, somebody in the side comments, Samantha says, why even worry about those people? Honestly, like I don't even pay attention to people like that at all. I've spent a lot of time with Jerry, Steve, Brent, Jamil, over the years. They are the greatest human beings I know in this business. They do this business. I'm driving around town today in Kalispell and I drive by properties that Jerry owns that I've been to, right? Like these guys are doing the business. I walk into Jamil's office once a week. He's got 60 deals a day that are being done in his office without him being there. So that should answer the question of Gabriel. Is it still a good idea to get into wholesaling? Absolutely. You'll see out of 600 people here on the live chat, you probably have a good 100 to 200 people that have all done multiple deals. And some people are in here, they do it as a full-time living. Okay. There's nothing bad about wholesaling and no regulation will be able to stop it from happening. There will always be a mechanism that allows you to do it. Wholesaling is the greatest business on planet Earth. It is the marijuana of the real estate industry. It's the gateway drug to becoming wealthy. Okay. It is the best. If it wasn't for wholesale, I have no clue what I would be doing with my life. No clue.
Be a contractor.
Well, and
I would. There
will always be homeowners that have personal problems with their property. And there has to be somebody that's going to solve those problems. And sometimes it's a creative solution. Sometimes it's just a fast cash as is offer, but it's always going to be around. And so just understand how the game is played, play it as clean as you can, because the whole point of getting into this is to make a real business out of this and to be able to have a foundation for finding really great properties that you can add to your portfolio. And the bigger you get and the more wealthy you get, the cleaner you have to be in your processes. So you might as well start out with as clean of a process as possible so that you don't have to go back and fix mistakes that happen, or worse yet, get caught with the mistakes that you've made in the past years down the road. So just do it right. Just follow what Jerry's talking about. Follow this show. Make sure that you understand that you should be around people that are a few steps ahead of you so that you can peer around corners and see what's going to happen next. When you have that, it's huge, because I've paid so much money in the stupid tax trying to let my ego loose and trying to be the smartest guy in the room, or try to figure out exactly what I should be doing without getting counsel from people that are so much smarter than myself, or hearing something that is a shiny object in a new, different way because I saw a 45-second reel. That doesn't build a long-term strategy. You don't get into the Hall of Fame by doing one good deal. You do it by a career of really good deals, really good business practices, and just follow the people that really care and are going to teach you the right way. And
the first time I did a double close was not because of regulation. The first time I had to close on a deal with hard money was not because of regulation. How many times all four of you boys have had a buyer and your buyer either A, fell through, or B, their funding needed another week to get funding? Yeah. And you could go back to the seller one time and say, I need a week extension, but you go back a second time. No, dude. So the first time I had to double close was about 8 years ago. And I had a seller that needed to move, kind of what Brent is talking about, how these sellers need cash to get into another house, right? Or they need cash to move or whatever. And I had a seller that said, no, I can't extend. Dude, my freaking U-Haul is packed. Yeah. I'm moving into an apartment. I can't not extend, dude. You contract, bro, what? And so I closed the deal. And the second it was closed and the seller got their money, even though my buyer had not closed, all of the weight came off my shoulder of forcing myself to find a buyer. And what magically happened is it gave me the ability to take my time to make sure I found the highest and best use for that property. You will make way more money when you understand that closing on the deal and you truly becoming the buyer is actually easier than going out there and hoping I would say hoping your buyer is going to close on time every time is more stressful than anything you will imagine. Do you guys agree? The last
72 hours, Pace, right? The last 72 hours, you're clenching. You're hoping that things happen. You're talking to the title company. Hey, do they got their funds in? Is everybody signed? Is everything going smooth? Have you talked to them? Right. You're just. It's always the last 48 to 72 hours that the issues happen. And so when you're in control and you can close them yourself, that's a power move. That is a power move.
For those of you guys wondering if wholesale is a good fit for you, look at Samantha's comment. She says, I've been in Pace's community for 6 months and I've made more money in 1 year than 1 year at my W-2. And that is only from wholesaling. I appreciate you all and the tremendous value you provide. So the people that are saying, hey, is now a good time to get into wholesaling? Hell yeah. Like you get into wholesale, you also can own 4 Toyota trucks from Japan. You know what I'm saying?
It's always a good time.
Hey, 4-wheel drive, Pace. And the wheels are only this big.
One of them is a dump truck. The back lifts up.
Wow. Look at him. You're just bragging now, bro.
That's how he dumped all those iguana bodies in the.
I think the best post I've seen on Instagram is a long time is like Jerry going, so you guys think like you can always tell how rich somebody is by the car they drive? Like, look at me. Like, look at my. I
bought 4 exotic cars, not 1, 4 exotic cars.
That's right.
So cool.
I had them shipped.
Jerry drives nothing but foreigns.
Yeah, that's right.
He's driving nothing but foreigns.
You know what we should talk about next week on Wholesale Hotline is how do I get started in wholesale? Because there's no better time to get started in wholesale than right now, in my opinion. Sellers are hurting, agents are leaving the business, people are getting beat up. You should be wholesaling cash deals. You should be flipping. You should be wholesaling creative finance deals. You should be holding creative finance deals. Guys, this is the greatest time on planet Earth. I did a 5-hour live this morning, and because I'm just so jazzed, I will be on camera, if you can't tell from my voice, 12 hours total today. 12 hours total. I'm so excited about this business more than I was 8, 9, 10 years ago. It is the greatest business on planet Earth.
And can you just add one more thing to what Paige just said? Realtors are leaving, right? Like, on top of how difficult things are, their commissions now are in jeopardy. Like, there are a lot fewer realtors now to compete against. There's a much, much greater need today.
Amen. Awesome. Well, Steve, I wanted to say, thank you for coming on, clearing the air, and being a part of this episode today. As we spoke off camera, but I would like to just, publicly say Steve has always been a brother, and a true friend of all of ours. We all really, really love Steve. It's never been about Steve. It was never about Steve. When we were talking about what we were talking about on the other episodes, it was just about trying to get a better understanding. And so, thank you, Steve, for coming here today. Thank you for allowing us an opportunity to clear that up for people. So if you guys had any questions about it, question no more. Steve will always be a brother and a friend of wholesaling, a brother and a friend to all of us, to Wholesale Hotline. And so we really appreciate you.
Yeah, we love you, brother. We love you so much. I love all 4 of you boys on the screen. Without you, I would not be where I am right now. I wouldn't have a turkey cam looking out at the turkeys, just FYI. One day you're going to see Jerry cruising across this freaking lawn in a Toyota truck. It's going to be sick.
Chasing turkeys.
Turkeys. I do truly love you boys. You're my brothers. And Steve, I second what Jamil just said about you. You're the man. You're the kingmaker, as I tell everybody. Steve put more wholesalers on the map than anybody in this industry.
Yep.
And for him to be attacked for trying to put wholesale under, a microscope is absolutely incorrect. He put me on the map. Nobody here would know who Pace Morby is if it wasn't for Steve Trang. Thank you, brother.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you guys for your kind words. And then, thank you for the opportunity to address it. And also thank you for the opportunity for me to make all those Instagram posts.
Oh yeah.
They were very good, Steve, by the way. You killed it.
Awesome. Great show, guys.
All right.
That's it.
That's a wrap.
Love you guys.
All right, I'm going to sign
See you next week.
Scores.
Or just say squat up.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
1, 2, 3.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
What are you doing?
I didn't say nothing.
Why?
I don't know.
Okay.
So squat up and enjoy the show.
Cool. I think we should use the one where Jamil doesn't say anything.